It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. Change your attitude, change your life. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life brings you interviews with some of the most inspirational and influential people in the world. It's our goal to educate and empower you so you can live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. We have another great show for you today. Each of us was created for something great. The challenge is to figure out what it is and then have the courage to do it. According to today's guest, Rob Bell, when we figure it out and take action, we derive great joy because we live a life of passion. Rob is the author of the new book, How to Be Here. He joins us to discuss how we can move from idea to action, taking the first step to following a dream. Rob is a New York Times bestselling author and international teacher and speaker. He was profiled in Time magazine, which selected him as one of 2011's 100 most influential people. His television special aired on the Oprah Winfrey Network, and he was a featured speaker on Oprah's The Life You Want tour. Welcome, Rob. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's great to be with you. Thanks.
You know, Rob, today you teach people how to find their passion and live a fulfilling life, but your life wasn't always on the track that you had envisioned. Tell us about what brought you to this place.
Well, I stumbled into this idea that we want to be inspired, we want to learn, we want to grow, and that we have a spiritual life, and that most of what drives us can't be seen or measured in any sort of normal, visible way, and that we all have these questions, we have doubts, we have insecurities, we have dreams, we have a vision for our life. And so I started out as a pastor, and then I started writing books, and then I went on tour with Oprah, and then I made some films. And so there's sort of a thread that connects it all. But I always begin by just saying to people, listen to your life, because your life has been speaking to you. When were you the most fulfilled? When were you doing work that somehow tapped into some sense that this is what I'm here for? And then I always ask people, what makes you angry? What is it that when you see it, everything within you says somebody should do something about that? Somebody should fix that problem. Somebody should help those people, because maybe that somebody is you.
And Rob, the path that you just described, the life that you're living, you had many setbacks, as we all do, before you were able to live your passion. So tell us a little bit about some of those setbacks and how you were able to move through them.
I started out doing public speaking, and to me, the sermon was like an art form, and I wanted to reclaim this art form and inspire people and educate people and help them find their path in the world. And not everybody liked my speaking, so they call it crickets, like just no reaction. I think after my first book came out, I would go to speak places, and there would be protesters out front with megaphones and big signs trying to warn people against coming to hear me speak. I had people with hundreds of thousands of Twitter followers saying very, very nasty things about me. At some point, you have to hold your life more loosely. A bunch of difficult things are going to happen. People aren't always going to understand what you're doing. You're going to be misunderstood, whether it's family, friends, people you grew up with, colleagues, people in your same profession. There are going to be snipers on every roof. There are going to be critics. There are going to be people who want to sabotage what you're doing. So life is difficult enough. You might as well be doing something that brings you joy.
Rob, I wanted to go down that path in the beginning because the life you're living now, most people would call it quote unquote successful. And the reason that I started that way, because I know that you had a lot to overcome. And I know that when people, when they begin something, and if it doesn't work out the way they had planned, they give up on it. And they say, well, I failed.
Right.
And they thought it was over. And you write in your book about failure. And I so relate to this. You wrote, you failed, and yet that failure made you a better person. You failed, but it worked in your favor. You failed, but it made you stronger, more resilient, more appreciative. You failed, but it created all sorts of new life and growth and maturity in you. You failed, but now realizing that failure isn't all it's cracked up to be. And I really wanted that to be a theme of this interview because
Right,
I think
right.
people just give up because they think that life is A to Z and it's direct, and that's just not the way it is.
Absolutely. And everybody who is doing something that brings them some semblance of joy and they're making the world a better place, everybody, when you ask them what their path and journey was like, they always start telling stories about, oh man, I totally bombed. Oh, I lost a bunch of money. Oh, I got fired. That's how it works. Is you set out, you throw yourself into it. You have to rethink failure, and many people don't even take the first step because they say, "Well, what if I fail?" Well, first, you're going to fail, so let's just start there. Secondly, what will actually happen when you throw yourself into your life with great joy is you will come to think about failure differently, and you will learn from it, and you will learn to laugh about it. And the people who are really in trouble are the ones who aren't moving because what if I fail? Just That's not the question. The question is, when I fail, will I bounce back? What will I learn? What great stories will I have? When you're at a dinner party and someone tells you a bunch of stories about what a winner they are, we're all bored out of our minds. The best stories at a dinner party are when people talk about, there was 6 feet of snow, I lost all this money. You know what I mean? It's always stories about bombing, about it not going well.
It gives us hope.
Yes, yes. And the people I admire the most, who I've followed for years, whether they were writers or musicians or business people or spiritual leaders, when I actually got to meet them, it wasn't their stories of great success that really moved me. It was when they would talk about all the times that they really, really struggled. That was what I kept noticing. That's when I was most inspired.
And another thing that you mentioned, you spoke about the critics out there and the people that were trying to silence you. And Rob, when I started this work, my ex-husband told me that I was crazy. He said people were laughing at
Yeah,
me. I was making a fool of myself. And so, what advice do
yeah.
you offer someone to silence the external voices, but also those internal voices in their own mind?
Well, you have your path.
Hmm.
And if it was other people's path, then everybody would be doing the same thing. So the fundamental truth about anybody's path is it will look different than the people around them. So if everybody around you completely understands and embraces and encourages your path, that actually might be a warning sign because they have their path. And what I would say beyond that is remember that when you take action, when you step out, when you take a risk, action exposes inaction and empowerment exposes disempowerment. And if you have a good friend who is stuck on the couch, disempowered, fearful, not doing something with her life, and then you decide you're going to do something with your life, that is terrifying for your friend. What is your friend's excuse now? As long as everybody stays stuck on the couch, then we're fine. But if one person gets up off the couch and says, I'm going to do something with my life, it's terrifying to the rest of the group. And so oftentimes it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with their own fear and catatonic paralysis about their own life. And lots of people, like think about YouTube comments and the hatred on the internet.
Hmm.
So many people are terrified to step up into their true path and to take risks and to do something in the world. And so as long as I'm criticizing what somebody else is doing, I don't have to answer for why I'm not doing something with my life.
So, Rob, right now, someone is listening to you, and that person is ready to take action. What advice do you offer? What tools can you give that person to get started?
Yeah. Well, first off, whoever's listening, I'm on your side. I'm cheering you on. But here's the thing. Usually there's a giant cloud of dreams and possibilities that sort of hover over a person's head, and it can be this big, vague, I just know that I want to do something more with my life. And the big will always begin with the small. So it'll always begin with some really small step that will seem almost trivial and insignificant, and yet it's huge. You know that it's huge, because it's your first step in this new direction. And the people around you might not realize it, but you are moving from inaction to action, from being disempowered to empowered. And sometimes it's a tiny little step, but it's actually huge because you're crossing over into a completely different mode of being. And so look at your life really carefully and try and find, what is the one step I can take in a new direction? And there will always be a one. There will always be some first step. And it will usually not seem like a big deal, but it actually is a big deal.
And then, Rob, the key here is when you take that step, which is number 1, don't worry about steps 10 or 15.
Yeah, right. Like in the book, I talk about how the first number is always a 1, which is the most obvious sentence, but I like it because it's like in every situation, there's always a 1. And the problem is oftentimes people don't step because they can't figure out step 6 or step 9, or they don't know if they're going to have enough money for step 24. But we aren't at any of those steps. We're only here today, and today is inviting us just to take one step. And what I've discovered is when I took the one step, all of the sudden things changed, and the second step may be very, very different than what you would have thought the second step would be, based on the fact that you had the courage to take the first step, which might be a phone call, might be registering for a class, might be asking some person somewhere a question, might be filling out a form, might be something really straightforward, and yet it's huge because it's starting something new.
The book is How to Be Here by Rob Bell. If you would like to learn more about the book or Rob and his work, you can visit his website, robbell.com. Rob, in about 30 seconds or less, what's the takeaway? What do you want to leave our listeners with?
That you have no guarantees about tomorrow, that life is fragile, and that we cannot change yesterday. Regret is in the past, worry is in the future, but you do have this day, and it's an extraordinary gift. And it is a precious, sacred, holy gift, and you get to do something about it. And if you can move from, I just need to get through life, to, I have received this extraordinary, miraculous gift, and I get to do something with it, it can totally change your life.
Rob, thank you so much for being here with us today and for being part of this conversation to help someone take that first step to get unstuck and turn inaction into action. It has been a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
We'll be right back. Hi, this is Joan Herman, host of Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Did you know that Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life has a free monthly digital magazine that can be read online or emailed to your inbox? Every month, nationally recognized leaders in their field provide information to educate, inspire, and motivate you. We believe in a holistic approach to life, incorporating mind, body, and spirit. Check out a copy of Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life 24/7. Visit cyacyl.com and be sure to tell your friends. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you found the show informative. At Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, we believe that knowledge is power. Take what you've learned, apply it, and live your best life now. Remember that the information provided are the opinions of our guests and should never replace the advice of a professional who knows your personal situation. If you'd like more information, visit our website, cyacyl.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on the site, listen to past shows on demand, read the digital magazine, and be sure to follow the show on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, this is Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.